everyone, and welcome to yet another edition of the Wrap Up. Nick Buckler with you, as always, alongside Dan Myers, partner in crime. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Well, today, obviously, by the time this goes on, we're going to know what happened at the trade deadline in the NHL, as it is trade deadline Monday, February 29th. We're just going to jump right into it right now with what the Red Wings are going to do. It seems as if they are just kind of mulling their options, and they really don't think that there's anybody out there who makes their team better, because they do have a lot of depth and a lot of young talent at forward, and they think their D-core is good as well. But I really do think they need to make a move for a top six forward. It's just a matter of who's out there. It may not be a pending unrestricted free agent, so it's just a matter of what's out there. They're right now the top wild card, but they're only a point out of second place behind Boston and the Tampa Bay Lightning, and only 5 points out of first, where the Florida Panthers are at. And Florida made a lot of big moves on Saturday, acquiring Yuri Hudler from former Red Wing from the Calgary Flames, acquiring Teddy Purcell from the Edmonton Oilers, and then they acquired a D-man from the Detroit Red Wings, Jakob Kindl, in exchange for a sixth-round pick. Dan, what did the Red Wings got to do at the trade deadline?
I was hoping they would make some moves for a D-man and at least somebody big, somebody physical. Unfortunately, we haven't heard anything. It's been probably one of the more quiet trade deadlines that we've had in recent years. And unfortunately, I mean, obviously they didn't really have too much to work with. They got rid of Kindl, and that was about it. So I really do think they need somebody to protect our young stars, especially if we're going to be bringing more up from Grand Rapids. You got a guy like Dylan Larkin, and you need him to be protected. You needed someone. You watching the game Saturday night? I mean, they were taking shots at him, taking runs at him, and that's Colorado. I mean, who are they as opposed to some of these bigger teams? And it's unfortunate. And if you want a guy like Dylan Larkin to hang around, you definitely need an enforcer. The Wings had it with Probert, Koser, McCarty, the grind line growing up. So if you want a guy that's going to serve long term like Yzerman did, you want to see that in Dylan Larkin. You need that protection. You need that enforcer, and I think we need to strengthen up a little more as our defense.
Yeah, I like the point you made about the protection aspect. Abdelkader's not going to cut it. He gets his face kicked in more often than not. It's just a matter of finding the right fit. You don't want to necessarily overpay for a guy just because he's going to protect your stars and not produce on the ice. I mean, obviously you have Eric Tangradi down in the minors right now. You have other big guys. You have Tyler Bertuzzi, who's known to shake him up a little bit. Mitch Callahan as well. But the thing our D needs to step up and use their size.
Yes.
Look at Jonathan Ericsson. He does not use his size. He's kind of a big wuss. He gets burned all the time on D. He eats up $4.25 million in cap space. He's a guy I would like to see move, and I know Mike Babcock is high on Jonathan Ericsson, so I wouldn't mind, seeing Ericsson go to Toronto for maybe a guy like a Nazem Kadri. I know is in the mix, although I'm not a fan of Kadri. He's still that top six centerman, which I think we're very deep at center, so I don't know if he's necessarily the guy. I know Babcock and Shanahan also want Anthony Mantha, and I don't think Mantha for Kadri is at all a possibility. You would definitely need more, maybe like a James Van Riemsdyk if you're going to give up Anthony Mantha, but I just don't see the Wings making a significant move. There's other D-men. I know you think that we need to shore up our D, which I agree. I noticed, Brendan Smith was a healthy scratch for the Stadium Series game on Saturday. That's a breath of fresh air because I thought Blashill was very high on Brendan Smith. He's a guy who gets caught a lot, pinches, joins the rush, doesn't get back, takes stupid penalties. Brendan Smith's a guy who I think should be on the outs. Jonathan Ericsson's a guy who should be on the outs. And although Marchenko started the year pretty well, his game has deteriorated a lot. I'm not writing him off just yet because he's still a very young, good right-handed shot defenseman who can play on the PK as well as the power play. But definitely he needs to kind of get with it. I'm not big on Xavier Ouellet. I would not mind seeing him get moved. But two big D-men that are out there right now that will probably get moved by the 3 p.m. deadline. Dan Hamhuis in Vancouver. But the thing about Hamhuis is he took a pay cut to sign in Vancouver in the offseason. So the list of teams that he might be willing to go to might be small because he took a significantly less offer than what was presented from other teams to go sign in Vancouver. But them being out of it, he's definitely probably going to get moved. Chris Russell in Calgary is another guy. Big right-handed shot defenseman who I think would be a great fit, although just a rental here. And I hear Calgary is only asking for a couple draft picks and none being a first round. Ken Holland said he's not going to give up a first-round draft pick, and he is not going to give up his top prospect. So that leaves maybe your depth forwards like a Timu Pulkkinen or a Thomas Yurko, maybe a defenseman down in the minors like a Ryan Sproul or a Xavier Ouellet, although they might still consider Ouellet a top prospect. But I really think the untouchable guys at this point, in the minors that is, obviously Dylan Larkin's untouchable, Pavsy, what have you, our Anthony Mantha is for sure not going anywhere, and I think he's really the only one on the table. I don't think they move Bertuzzi. I don't think they move Callahan or Martin Firk. Tangradi could be, but I really want Tangradi up on that fourth line. Although the fourth line played really well in the Stadium Series game in Colorado, I just think the Wings should make a move. But let's be honest, this team could make a run.
Yeah.
When it comes to playoff hockey, you need a hot goaltender and timely scoring. You got goals from Tatar and Nyquist Saturday, and those are guys you need to wake up. Both guys 20 goals last year. Nyquist 27 goals last year. So his backhand goal Saturday was one of the better goals I've seen in the NHL this year. Those are the guys you need. And obviously you need Pavsy to keep it up. You need Larkin. He's kind of been on the schneid for a little bit. You just need timely scoring. Richards, Abdelkader, Helm. These guys they need to find the back of the net. But I do think the current team, by staying still at the trade deadline, could make a run. But it's just, I'd still like to see him make a move. But before I turn it over to you, Dan, I know I've taken the floor for a while here. Don't make a move just to make a move. You got to make sure the players out there are an upgrade. What's out there now? Andrew Ladd's gone. The only guy that would really might be an upgrade that's available is Louis Eriksson in Boston. Boston's not going to give up Louis Eriksson for cheap, especially to a division rival like Detroit. It's just Andrew Ladd was the player I wanted, and he's gone.
Yeah.
Eric Stahl was another player I wanted. He's now in New York. So it's just a matter of these players just going and doing big things. Chicago's making a run this year. They acquired Dale Weiss and Thomas Fleischmann from Montreal. Montreal officially sellers, although Carey Price is skating today in full equipment. Their season's done. The Eastern Conference, I think, has 10 teams that are in it. And there's obviously the 8 teams in the playoffs right now. In our division, it's Florida, Boston, Tampa, Detroit. The other division, there's 6. Obviously, you have the Washington Capitals. You have both New York teams, the Islanders and the Rangers. You have the Pittsburgh Penguins. Those are the playoff teams. The 2 wildcard teams knocking on the door are the Philadelphia Flyers and the New Jersey Devils. The Flyers, look out for them. If they make one move, they're getting great play from their backup goaltender right now, Michael Neuwirth, on my fantasy team. Good free agent acquisition by me. Any NHL teams watching, I'm available to be, a GM, player development, what have you. I'm available. But Michael Neuwirth and Steve Mason is an absolutely incredible duo. If they get timely scoring from Claude Giroux and Wayne Simmons, Jakub Voracek, Philly's a team that can make moves. I don't see New Jersey hanging on. They just don't have the depth at forward and defense. Corey Schneider can only take them so far. But, it's a 10-team race, so the sellers are growing, and there's only a couple hours left before teams, shut the door on making moves.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back with the Stahl situation, it really frustrated me to see him go for literally next to nothing. Yeah, there's a couple draft, was it second-round draft picks, I believe? And, for someone with a big name like that, he was one of the guys I always thought would be a franchise player in Carolina. Obviously, that's not the case. He's out of there. Another Andrew Ladd, that was unfortunate to see him go. And we were talking about earlier as far as the size situation. I really was hoping we'd make a move for Dustin Byfuglien. He's one of those guys that makes you look over your back. You don't keep your head down when he's on the ice. And that's definitely who we need to have on this team as soon as possible. Going back to what you were saying as far as the GM spending money or just making moves, for just to do it for the deadline. We're smart. Ken Holland's not like that. And there's been a couple of years where people were frustrated that he didn't make moves. And it ended up benefiting us in the long run. Look at our team in Grand Rapids. It's unbelievable. So yeah, I really don't think he's just gonna, money's burning a hole in his pocket and he's just got to get rid of something or he's got to make a move. He's pretty smart like that. But unfortunately, those 3 players I just discussed 30 seconds ago, those are my top picks. I was really excited to see them. Yeah, we do need to give Dylan Larkin a break, I feel. He hasn't played this many games he hasn't played this many games in his career. So I think we need to exercise him just taking it slow, taking it easy. You don't want him to burn out too quickly. And as far as the defense, you're right. they definitely have to use their size. Erickson really needs to get up and make his presence known. I mean, I feel like I'm watching the hamburger out there. He's just not doing anything. He's a big, wide dude, and he's not doing anything. And if you're a defense like that, you really got to make guys in front of the net, make them think. And the goaltenders aren't going to do that. It's not the olden days of Patrick Raw and we're on Hextall where they're paying if they're in front of the net. We definitely need somebody. We need someone to take care of our guys, and we need someone to make their presence known. And that's the biggest thing for me, and I feel like we've been lacking that for a long time. Going back to Abdelkader, he's on his way to becoming more of a finesse player who will throw his body around when need be. But he's not going to be the guy that's going to take care of your stars. Not going to be a guy that intimidates people. We need someone like that. We need someone like a Stu Grimson back in his prime. We need someone like a Bob Rover. I keep going back to him because, he was my idol watching him take care of guys, and he wasn't afraid to shy down from any fight. So if we could get, I know the league's changing a little bit like that. We don't have that type of fighting anymore, but we definitely need someone strong like that. And it'd be nice if we could pull someone up. I hope Bertuzzi ends up being like that when we bring him up from Grand Rapids, inevitably, whenever we do. But we'll see.
Yeah, I really think that the league is evolving, and I don't see the Red Wings ever acquiring a player of that nature. It's just not that's just not the way the Red Wings operate. The European puck possession style just doesn't dictate to smashing bodies, having a player who may not be skilled with the puck, just out there to hit guys. Those days are going. Look at Zach Ronaldo in Philly. He's done. Or Boston now. There's just no need for that player in the NHL. It's such a fast-paced, evolving game now where there's no room for that. And when it comes to resting Dylan Larkin, I'm going to have to disagree with you 100% on that because the Red Wings are right in the thick of they're a bubble team. And you need your best players out there every single night. I think the off-season is a great time to rest. And I don't think it's really crossed their mind, because it's not like baseball where your pitchers are getting tired, their arms are getting worn out, and in the long run. This is hockey. He's been skating 5 to 6 days a week his whole life. And now that he's in the top level, sure, he's getting pushed around a little bit. Would I like to see him gain 10 to 15 pounds in the offseason? Absolutely. But it's just something where I think Dylan Larkin needs to play every night because the team needs him. And he's a hot goal scorer when he's on. Just look at him the first month of the year. He scored in almost every single game. He had a point in every game for the first 8-9 games. Sure, he's hit kind of a little roadblock right now, but I think benching him might hurt his confidence because he's kind of been in a skid. And you don't want a young guy. Look at Jonathan Drouin in Tampa. They benched him when he was slow, and then him and John Cooper never saw eye to eye after that. Steve Yzerman sent him down. He started skipping games in the AHL. And I'm not saying Larkin is a prima donna like Jonathan Drouin at all. I just don't want to risk his confidence turning into a confidence of a guy like Jimmy Howard. When he skids, you bench him. I'm not comparing the two at all, but I'm just saying I really think Larkin needs to be in that lineup. I love the line that they put him on in the Stadium Series with Brad Richards and Andreas Athanasiou. I love the speed of 71 and 72. And then you get the old witty goal scoring with a great wrist shot of Brad Richards. Love that line. I really think they need to get away from Pav and Z with Abdelkader. I really liked when they switched up, put Abdelkader with Helm and I think it was Glendening. Glendening. They went back to Sheahan, Tatar, and Nyquist, and they put Yurko with the Euro Twins. And I think Yurko needs to have guys like Datsuk and Zetterberg out there. Because when you put him on the fourth line with a guy like Glendening and when he's healthy, Drew Miller, Yurko's not a guy that's going to carry the play. And when he has Pav and Z out there with him, I think he's just in his glory because he can kind of just hang back. All the attention is on Datsuk and Zetterberg, and Yurko can just do what he wants. I still think Yurko has a ton of upside in this league. He's got great hands. He's got a great quick shot. And I think putting him with Datsuk and Zetterberg is huge for his confidence. He's really played good in his last 5 to 6 games. Maybe you trade him because his value is higher now than it's ever been. But you keep Hulkinen on the bench. And I really like Brendan Smith on the bench as well. And ride Mrazek and ride your stars.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. And what you were saying earlier as far as, your third and fourth line showing up, if we can get a strong third and fourth line and get them producing like they did Saturday night against Colorado at the Stadium Series, that goal by Nyquist was just unbelievable.
Oh.
If we get even half the style points of that goal, that's what wins cups. They say the NFL this year, especially defense wins championships. Well, your third and fourth line producing like they did. Well, like Gus Nyquist did over Saturday night, I mean, that will get you a cup. And it did in 97, 98, and 02. Granted, 0-2 we were kind of stacked. I mean,
The difference with this team than the 97, 98 teams is those nights you were outscoring every single team. You could go out there and give up 5 goals and win. Look at the Colorado series. I think the lowest scoring game was like 4-3. And the difference with this team, they have the ability to score goals, although we haven't seen it that much. They have natural-born goal scorers on their team. But the difference with this team is goaltending. Peter Mrazek can get a shutout every single night. It doesn't matter what team. They're playing Dallas Monday. He could face 50 shots and stop them all against Sagan, Ben, a guy who's played great of late on that line, Patrick Eaves, former Red Wing. You have, Alashemsky. You have Patrick Sharp. That team is stacked. And when you have a goalie like Peter Mrazek, you feel confidence that you could win any game. Look at last season against Tampa. Yep. Game 1, when we got absolutely dominated. Won the game 3-2. The great spin goal by Luke Glendening in the third period.
That's right.
And Peter Mrazek stood on his head, and he had 2 shutouts in the series, played absolutely incredible, and gave the team a chance to win the series. That's all you can ask for from your goaltender. And guys like Vernon, guys like Osgood, they weren't those shutdown goalies. They were good enough. Mrazek is beyond good enough. He's been the best player for the Red Wings this season.
Yeah, and this is going to be a real challenge and a real test playing Dallas Monday night. We're going to see what they're made of. I mean, they got to bring their A game because, like you said, this team is stacked, and we do need. It's great that they're playing this talent level team, if that makes sense. But it'll be a good test to see. It'll be a good test to see how they turn out. I'm excited to see how they do.
Dan, I noticed in your notes here you have a lot of combine notes. The NFL Combine is going on or was going on this past week. I didn't really watch any of it, so Dan, fill us in. What did you take from the Combine this weekend?
There's not too many guys that really stick out. A lot of name players that really, every year you get those 2 or 3 big players that you're like, if we had the top spot, we could grab this guy. Really, it's just a bunch of guys looking to stand out, trying to make a name for themselves. And, I really wasn't too impressed with what I saw. Granted, we knew that was coming, even before, college football ended. It was just a slow year, and you didn't get those standouts. But, I hear the 2 biggest players that the Lions could possibly be picking up is the A'Shawn Robinson and Walker, I believe is the other guy's name. I can't think of his first name. But, those 2 guys I really wasn't impressed with. With A'Shawn Robinson, I mean, he was having trouble in Alabama. I guess I was reading a report that freshman and sophomore year, he had troubles as far as not hitting the quarterback. So what that means is normally in a practice, you don't hit your quarterback. Well, he was hitting his quarterback, and that's a no-no, especially for a practice, especially with a team with, I believe Sam Bradford was the QB at the time. And Saban just, you don't do that. Apparently he was having trouble remembering that, but, that's not a good thing.
A.J. McCarron.
A.J. McCarron, thank you. What am I thinking of? It's
Sam Bradford. I'm like, man, this guy, Van Wilder? Been in school for 12 years?
Yeah,
He better have a doctorate degree if he's been there that long. I just don't see Robinson with the brain capacity to have a doctorate degree if you can't even read a playbook, let alone a medical book.
So, little things like that, you really start to wonder. Wonder.
Oh, puberty, 30 years old.
30, just kicking in.
Sam Bradford.
But, one thing I did hear, you read a lot of the forums or you listen to any talk radio show is Jim Caldwell's. He's more to play it safe and not get the guy with a questionable background. And
look where that got them with Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger.
Yeah.
Dude was a 3rd-round pick. The Lions missed out on him 3 times. Tears it up, although he did end up tearing something else, his ACL last year. Doesn't matter. The dude was absolutely incredible coming off the block, blitzing from the corner position, shut down, wasn't letting guys beat him, heavy hitter, and I wanted them to take him so bad, but he had that skeptical background. Arizona takes a chance on him, and Arizona by far wins the division. Am I saying Mathieu is the reason why? Absolutely not, but he definitely helped that defense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and then look how it did with Sue. He was a little questionable in college. How'd that turn out? It was great the years we had him. I mean,
Nick Fairley. Speaking of a guy that can't read, Nick Fairley. Dude would rip his helmet off on the field. Automatic penalty. He'd be like, oh, man, I forgot.
Wait, we can't do that?
Yeah, I didn't know where he was at half the time. Speaking of mental health, Dontrell Willis parading around in his underwear in the snow. So you can't always, read a book by its cover, judge a book, read these. Half these guys can't even read a book. But, needless to say, Calvin Johnson's still undecided if he's going to retire or come back. and the Lions are going to make a move within the next week if they're just going to release him or not, because they have to move forward.
You have to,
Calvin
absolutely.
Johnson is now getting to the point where the ship has sailed with me. Sure, he's been great to this team. He's been a class act. He's been everything you can ask for. But I'm to the point where, dude, make up your mind. The team has to move forward. We have a new GM, cleaned house. We're going to compete now more than we ever have before. Whether you better hop aboard the ship or you better jump in the life vest jacket ship and just kind of go to retirement or go to a different team, because we got to make this move and we got to move on.
Yeah, and the big question is, would you be sour if he decided to jump ship and join another team for the
Go
last
ahead,
year?
see ya.
Yeah.
I think he's past his prime.
I don't blame
Sure,
him.
he still has he led the team in drops last season.
Yeah.
He had more drops than Eric Ebron, and I did not think I think I could have less drops than Eric Ebron. So Calvin, to me, has been shying away from contact in the years. Sure, he's beat up, but if he wants to go to New England, Tom Brady just signed a 2-year extension today. Go ahead, get your ring, do whatever you want. I wouldn't be butthurt at all by it. The team needs to move forward. We need to know what direction we're taking in the draft. If we're going to draft a receiver, if we're going to draft a lineman, linebacker, they've let go of Tulloch. They're not bringing back some secondary pieces. If Calvin just adds your name to the list, you're past his prime, they would just be bringing him back for the fans and for the team, and just to kind of be loyal to the guy. I don't think he's an elite player anymore in the league.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100% on that. And it's too bad. I feel like every day that goes on, every hour that goes on without him making an announcement is really tarnishing his reputation. For me, it is frustrating. I would like to see him, called either way. But, for a lot of these fans who grew up just bleeding, Honolulu blue, it's really hurting them. And, you got to make a move. You can't be standing still. So,
Our friends at Brand Life said it best. Make moves or stay still. The Pistons were making moves at the deadline.
absolutely.
Tobias Harris was a guy that they acquired, and every game except one since he's been here 6 games now. He's had 20-plus points. The Pistons are now on a 4-game winning streak, knocking off top-seeded Cleveland Cavaliers in Cleveland
Huge.
by 8 points, then beating 2 scrub teams that they have to beat. The Philadelphia 76ers, the worst team ever in the NBA, and the Milwaukee Bucks, knocking both of them off on the road, big wins. And then Sunday, knock off the number 2-seeded Toronto Raptors. Toronto and Cleveland are up here. The rest of the East is down here. Pistons have knocked off each of them in pretty impressive fashion. They led by as many as 26 points on Sunday night, ended up winning by 13, 114 to 101. I think the Pistons can make a run. I'm jumping on the bandwagon now, so anyone can say, oh, you weren't there the whole time. I'm jumping on now. Pistons will win 2 series in the playoffs this year. Mark my words, they'll be the 6th seed. They're going to make moves, 6th or 5th. Dan,
I like it.
I looked at their schedule this morning. From the beginning of March, or after the first week of March, they will have 9 straight home basketball games, 7 of which are against lower teams in the Eastern Conference than them. They must win 7 of those games. They play Sacramento is one of the 2 Western Conference teams, and the other is the Dallas Mavericks. Dan, go 7-2. You're talking run. You're talking playoff beards. You're talking championships. You're talking the porcupine, whatever they call him, the rodent, Stan Van Gundy. He's building an effing wall. We're doing it. Pistons are making moves. Mark it. Their trade got voided last week, by the way, that we talked about. Donatas Montejunas and Marcus Thornton no longer with the team. Joel Anthony has been retracted from Philly to Houston, back to Detroit. Undid 3 trades, voided. Stay healthy, guys, because this isn't happening. I feel like Jim Rome right now, except
You letting it burn.
except a much
Are we in the jungle?
cue the Guns N' Roses. There we go. Except just a much less cool version of Jim Rome, I guess. Just kidding, way cooler. Check me out. What up? Pistons though, making moves. Dan Myers. Mark my words.
Cool.
Championship rings for all. On me if they win it all. I'll buy everyone. Just tweet me if you are watching
Your
this
ringside.
and you want a ring, because I don't have much confidence that we have more than 10 viewers on this show. So, yeah. Dan, anything to say before we deuce it?
Can I just say,
No.
Steph Curry, Saturday night.
Hate him.
I don't know if
Hate
you
him.
probably saw that shot. It
Hate
was
him.
unbelievable.
Hate him.
He does it again overtime against OKC. This little
Hate him.
guy is taking a shot from half court. I could Yeah, it was just unbelievable. I had to give him props for that.
I don't.
It's
I won't. He's too
definitely,
cocky.
a
When's he
great
gonna
shot.
pull up from his own side of court? Just I can make this. I'm the best. No,
He doesn't
dude.
have to. He's got the half court shot down.
See you, dude. Done.
Other than that, I thought that was great. Cool highlight for the weekend. I thought the alumni game, going back to the NHL, was awesome.
See Stevie and Channing get the goals for the Wings.
Yeah, and see Marty Lapointe looking
Oh,
like he's about to
dude.
join the UFC
Oh
or WWF.
man, Jack.
My
Did you
man
see that guy's
is
traps?
huge. Wow.
Yeah.
I thought that was one of those Cedar Point things where they sort of
Yeah,
impose.
morph you.
Yeah.
You stick your head over the Hulk's body.
Yeah,
you
I
look like
could-
Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah, exactly.
Marty LaFerrigno.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah.
That was the highlight of the weekend.
He looked good, but Dan, we're gonna have to dig deep for some highlights next week because our time is expired. We got to get to the Palace to root on our Pistons. Dan Myers, Nick Buckler, out.